if we can build this into some of our process into the debt ceiling, if we can make sure that this ought to be at least a starting point for the conversation. Remember, this has got revenues. It's got an approach that says defense spending has to take its hits as well as just hitting domestic spending. And I think it's a good starting point.
Okay, July 20th as we speak, August 2nd coming around the bend. How do you get, let's go through the groups. How do you get the House Democrats to go along with at least participating in getting 218 if Boehner will let this come to a vote?
Well, we went over and talked to a lot of the House Democrats today. I think they were generally optimistic. They see that if we simply do something where we do $1 trillion in cuts and no plan, we're going to be back where we are today, 6 or 8 months from now, with a new starting point and even deeper cuts in entitlement programs and domestic discretionary programs. We got to make sure anything we do now counts towards a larger deal, and they say, hey, this makes some sense. The House Republicans, I mean, I think they've asked for things that are comprehensive. This is a comprehensive approach, but I can't make a prediction about that part of the body.
I feel like we're dealing in the Middle East now. It's so hard. But how about this? Will this work? You've got your plan for $4 trillion. Most of it spending cuts, some revenues. You got it agreeable to a bipartisan group. You go to the House Democrats. They say, okay, we'll agree to the following. There will be a separation of the debt ceiling issue, a divorcing, a decoupling of that from the spending cut package and all that stuff. So you get an agreement in principle from both sides that as part of getting the debt ceiling hiked up and avoiding a bankruptcy, that there will be this down the road fairly soon legislation to do the $4 trillion package. Is that the idea? They'll be decoupled, but not in principle.
Chris, that would be extraordinarily reasonable, but I work in a place that's not always reasonable. We've got to first and foremost make sure we deal with this debt ceiling in a responsible way. We don't want to do anything with our so-called Gang of Six plan that messes that up. But we've got to keep our momentum going forward. In a reasonable world, what you suggested would work, but I'm not sure where we're headed. I'm anxious to hear from when the guys get back from the White House literally right now.
I get the feeling, I mean, everybody I work with, all the producers who are part of our brain trust, we put together the show every night, everybody, I don't want to speak for everybody, seems to think that Boehner really wants to reach some kind of reasonable compromise, which tilts to the conservative side, but it doesn't shut out the Democrats. They get some piece of the action. Is that your view?
Yeah, that's my understanding from every report I've heard from the White House, from the fact that anybody that can read a balance sheet realizes you can't solve this problem on simply one side of the ledger, on simply the cut side. You got to have revenues as well. You got to give confidence that the economy is going to come back, so the $2 trillion sitting on the sidelines can actually start getting reinvested, creating some jobs. So I think everything I've heard is the speaker's willing to be reasonable on this.
Okay, we saw the market go up 200 points yesterday when there's good news coming out of your Gang of Six.
Right.
You're a business Democrat. That's an interesting hybrid. Yep. You're a businessman who's a Democrat. How does getting this thing dealt with effectively the next week or so help get the market back on